here. We have a lot of engines. And then we've also got some heavy equipment up here helping out, opening up some roads. But what the hotshot crews are doing is just working along the edge, doing hotspot, cold trail, that sort of thing, trying to put in as much direct line as they can, trying to get out here along Ski Run Road to where this bells off into the real steep country down on the Mescalero. Back this way, you can see this black on the map. What that indicates is that that part of the fire is secure, that we feel that it's not going to go anywhere even if we do have some sort of wind event. And then moving around over here, you'll see a lot of this country in Hotel and Division Lima. That's the bulk of the residential areas right in Ruidoso. And the crews in there, mostly engines, are just mopping up around structures, getting in, putting out hot spots. They were gritting through there today. They're still finding some hot spots even with this rain. There's some out there, which is why we haven't put black on the map here just yet. We're confident that this isn't going to go anywhere, but we just don't put the black on the map just yet, just to be conservative. There is a few spots coming out of Cedar Creek here where we're real confident, coming up around Flume Canyon where we're real confident, coming out here where we are confident in the more. This is Division Alpha, but as far as this section goes, just doing a lot of mop up. The crews have been very busy mopping up the last few days, and with this rain, that's helped that effort. Moving over here into Division Alpha, this is the area of the fire where we haven't had people on. Just as you all know from around here, this is wilderness. This is rugged out here. So there are some access points on these roads coming up from Cienega that the folks have been able to get to. We are going to have some black on the map in here tomorrow as well. So we are able to get folks to work into this part just on foot. This part out here, not so much. So we've had some folks in the air looking at this before the weather came in to try and come up with a plan for Division Alpha on the far west side. But we were able to get folks in today to do this section, secure that, and then secure this little spot right out here. So they were able to get folks on a UTV out to this spot. So that's where South Fork sits right now. Down here on the Salt Fire, you're seeing there's not a lot of black on the map, but they're feeling really good about all of this section here and this section here. They did a little IR flight today before the weather came in, and there was some heat showing in some of these fingers out here, but really no considerable heat in all of this right in here. But this is all just crews and dozers just securing edge. A lot of this is the Pino and Juniper country when it gets out onto the edge out here. And that's where the bulk of our efforts have been in the last few days, is working this section here and trying to get around here. Early on in the fire, we were concentrating on this, of course, to keep it from moving into the structures. But it is looking really good, and we're confident that this fire is going to stay in this current footprint. We've got a structure protection specialist who's going around assessing a lot of the structures in here with a group of folks, and we're going to build that organization a little bit to kind of increase their productivity. And then we've also taken on initial attack responsibilities within our TFR, and I think Albert will probably go into exactly what that is. But with that, I'm sure there'll be some questions later. That's the end of my update.
Thanks, Brandon. Our next speaker will be our incident meteorologist, Tom Bird.
Thank you, Brandon. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Bird, incident meteorologist, forecaster from the National Weather Service office down in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. I'm going to start here at the map, and we're taught that when we're briefing folks to say the most important thing first, right? So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with what I think is most important for the community to hear, and that's going to be the recent history. The last 3 days with all the rainfall, the showers, the thunderstorms that we've seen here on these burn scars and in and around Ruidoso, Alto, Mescalero, Ruidoso Downs, and all these areas. I want to talk about what's been happening here. And I'm going to show you a map that shows you how much rain we've been seeing. But over the last 3 days, we've had daily thunderstorm development in and over these fires. And we know that if you live here, you have 4 main drainages that come out of the high country here to the west. One, the Rio Ruidoso, which has flooded. We've seen debris come out and flood into town. Next, going up, you have Cedar Creek. It also has flooded. Debris come out into town. You go north of that, you have Eagle Creek. Just today, a lot of flooding, a lot of debris out into Alto Lake. And then north of that, you have the Rio Benito. It also, every one of these is extremely flashy right now. And there's a lot of bare ground that's been burnt, and so we're seeing a lot of dirt, a lot of mud, a lot of ash, a lot of log, a lot of debris coming out. And this is critical in a manner that is life-threatening. So when we have the community reintroduced, if you live or are in an area that is flood-prone already, it's going to be 10 times worse now. So really, we're going to have to be very careful, everybody that's here back in the community. So I just wanted to put that out up front. Now, because of the Little Bear and the McBride fires, we do have a lot of rain gauges in the area, so we are able to know what's going on, and we're putting 3 more in today and tomorrow. So let's go over here to this graphic, and this will show you 72 hours of precipitation that we've seen in and around these fires. It's kind of hard to see with the blue, but the perimeter for the South Fork, I'm tracing right here, right now. And you can see 9100ths, 9400ths, 1.25 inches almost, 2 1/3 inches, 1.5 inches surrounding and over this fire just in the last 3 days. I don't have the salt on here, but I can tell you the salt hasn't gotten nearly as much rain, and it hasn't had near the problems. And then the Rio Benito, the Blue 2 fire, has gotten even more. And so all of these have been a real big hassle. And up to this point, it's just been a safety concern for all the first responders, the team, the firefighters. But when the community comes back in, it's going to be a much bigger concern for a lot more people. And that's where we're really trying to keep heads up and get ahead of this situation. So let's go to the next slide. And the reason I say that is because looking ahead at these outlooks for precipitation, we have June 29th through the 3rd, and then out to the 7th, and out to the 19th. All of these outlooks indicate that the probability for this area is for above normal precipitation. And while that's really good for fighting fire, it's not so good when you have burn scars and the kind of topography we have that channels all of that precipitation into communities. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but the probabilities aren't huge. But when you put a probability for above normal, you take the probability away for below normal. So a lot more likely that we'll see normal to above normal precipitation through the middle of next month. Let's go to the next, please. If you were with us last time I introduced this weather matrix, it's a graphical look at the weather that we expect over the next 6 days. And a lot of these elements are what's really important for firefighting. You know, the temperatures, the relative humidity, and the winds. But also down here on the bottom, we have the chances of showers, rain, and lightning. And really what's important is not so much the numbers, but the trends. And so you'll notice a lot of green on here. And green doesn't mean wet here. What it means is moderated. So burning conditions, not really whether we're getting wet or not, but how light the winds are, how humid the air is, how cool the temperatures are, how many clouds we have. And for firefighting and for fire behavior, it means pretty low on the spectrum of what would be concerning as far as fire is concerned. But when you take that and you put it into precipitation in the situation we have now, and you see these pretty large numbers for thunderstorms and wetting rain. And when we say wetting rain, we mean probably a tenth of an inch or more. And just today, with only 3/10 of an inch, we had major flooding come out of Eagle Creek. And so the trends are what we look at here. And I'll say today was kind of a moderate day as far as precipitation and storms go, but they kind of drops the next 2 days for Monday. And then from Tuesday on, we ramp up. And the reason being, we have high pressure over the area, and that's why you see this line with the red and the yellow. That's higher temperatures that seems to happen all the time under high pressure. It tends to want to subdue storm development, but when you have mountains, when you have adequate moisture, they're going to punch through that cap that we call that. And so we're still going to get a few storms tomorrow in the area, but then as we get later in the week, that cap, that high pressure starts to break down. We'll get a passing disturbance, and that combined with the moisture that we're going to have lingering in place is going to produce more and more showers and thunderstorms. And so we'll ramp up our threat of flooding and debris flows as we go later into the week each day. So let's move on to the next. And I think this is the last one. So this one, I showed you last time a hot, dry, windy index that went back 30 days, and I showed you that really high spike was the day that these fires started, and you can see it on this one too. 6 days ago, there's where we were, way up here, and all these are probability, or not probabilities, they're percentiles. And so when we were this high on this chart on the day that these two fires started, it meant most days were cooler, were wetter, and weren't as windy. And you can see since the fire started, it's been dropping. These are actual daily totals. And then as we move forward, this is the forecast, right? And so back here at that point in time, the index was way up high. We were really dry, we were very windy, and we were pretty warm. Going through now, I showed you on the matrix, you saw the high temperatures with the high pressure, but we're really low on the scale for how dry we are. We've got really elevated moisture. That's a good thing for fire. Windy with under high pressure, light winds. You saw that also on the matrix, so we're really low on the wind. And so overall, the index is pretty low, and you want it down here as far as firefighting is concerned. And so going forward, we really don't see a lot of potential for extreme or critical fire weather conditions. So we were not going to be super hot. We're not going to have strong wind events, and we're not going to be exceptionally dry going forward. And I believe that completes the weather. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker will be our fire behavior analyst, Dan Pearson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Pearson. I'm the fire behavior analyst for Southwest Team 5. So Tom really kind of covered a lot of the bases. You've probably already noticed as you've been driving around the area, not a whole lot of smoke, especially when you compare it to 6 days ago. But there are still some smokes available and observable by everyone just driving around on the adjacent highways. So the fuel situation has changed significantly from when these fires started 6 days ago. Once they made the initial runs under, as Tom was explaining, the very hot, very dry, extremely windy conditions of last Monday and Tuesday, they've since moderated, as through a combination of Mother Nature, thanks to Tom, the rainfall that we've been receiving, as well as a lot of hard work by the aviation and firefighters that have been working, especially, can't say this enough, the local firefighters that did the initial attack on the first 2 shifts of this. Really put a lot of this fire behavior in check. So we've really seen very limited growth over the last 96 hours. You'll still see some smokes, so there is still fire burning. The rainfall that we have received, several inches of rain cumulatively over the fire area, has been sufficient to change the fuel complex by making it moisture, raising the fuel moisture percentages and making the surrounding fuels much less available to rapidly ignite and sustain fire, allowing fire to grow. So the smokes that you are still seeing, especially several areas along the Highway 70 corridor, as well as stuff you might be seeing higher up in the mountains on the western perimeter of the fire in Division Alpha, those are in different fuel complexes. So along Highway 70, ponderosa pine, some pinyon juniper at the higher elevations. But what those smokes are stumps, cat-face trees, little conglomerations of old dead and down fuels that are large diameter, able to withstand the precipitation and still maintain the heat just because they're so dry and so large. They will continue burning out over the next several days. You'll still see the smoke. You might see an increase in smoke production, especially tomorrow if we have clear skies, hotter temperatures. But the fuels surrounding those smokes are not available to rapidly ignite. So while it is going to be sunny and we will have some wind, and we might see an increased uptick in smoke production, the fires aren't actually going anywhere. We're monitoring, allowing those, well, I shouldn't say monitoring, we're observing those and ready to take action if needed, but they're surrounded by black, areas that have already burned, so they can't go anywhere. The areas up in Division Alpha that are still putting up smoke, that's a different fuels complex. It's mixed conifer, high elevation, patches of aspen with fir understory and some dead and down. So those fir ecosystem, very close canopy, so it's able to shed the rain and protect the understory where those fires are burning in logs and deep duff. So because it's protected, it's still putting up the smoke. It's not really going anywhere significant rate of spread, and we've been watching that primarily via air while figuring out plans on how to get personnel in there, concentrating on the primary areas where people live, the houses, road corridors, infrastructure, and so now we're back in the wilderness. So we're still watching that, coming up with plans on how to address it. You'll still see smoke, possibly a slight uptick in smoke production, but it's a lot of that's stuck on ridges, and so it's not actually moving. And based on the weather pattern that we're seeing, we're currently in, very light winds. These fires were completely wind-driven and fuels-driven, funneled by topography. Now the fire's in a backing orientation. Topography is not in the favor. Very light winds, very high relative humidities, very high humidity recoveries at night. So the burn window, the time period each day where the environment promotes active potential fire behavior is shrinking. Relative humidity on the days on Monday when these fires started was between 4 and 8% and only recovered to around 11% at night. Right now, according to Tom's matrix and what we've been observing over the last 3-4 days, we're getting humidity recovery to 90 to 100% at night, higher cloud cover, and the humidity levels have only been dropping to like around 40%, might be dropping down to the 30s or mid-20s. But that is a far cry from where we were about 6 days ago. So where I'm going with this is be patient. You will still see smoke. That is natural. The fires those are individual pockets of heat that are surrounded by black that are going out and very unlikely to significantly spread over the next several days. With that, thank you and look forward to any questions.
All right, for our final team speaker, we'll have Albert Newman as our Air Operations Branch Director.
Hey, good evening, Albert Newman. Assigned to the fire, we have 9 helicopters, including a drone unit used for mapping and infrared missions. We have a short-haul helicopter that can extract injured firefighters, and we also have a National Guard hoist ship. The other aircraft are used for troop transport, recons, and water dropping missions. Fortunately, Mother Nature's given us a big hand the last few days, so we haven't been quite as busy, but we are still actively performing a number of missions. Primarily came up here to talk about drones. Basically, all of this area on the map and plus up into the airport just off the map is under what's called a temporary flight restriction. It's a FAA designation, which basically means you have to have permission to enter that area with any sort of aircraft, even a little drone like you might buy at Walmart. You need to have permission to fly. It's for the safety of the first responders inside working these fires. So daily, I've been getting reports of drones, civilian drones, local people flying drones. I just had one a few minutes before the fire in the Alpha Lima area, and our air attack reported one this morning down on Branch 2. So if you fly, okay, let me backtrack. I've been working closely with FEMA, and I understand people are very concerned. This is a stressful situation. A number of structures have likely been lost. I've been working with FEMA, and hopefully we have the weather window finally in the morning. The plan is for them to fly a Cessna, a small airplane, in a grid-like pattern over the South Fork fire, and they'll be taking photos every certain amount of time, and they'll stitch those together, and FEMA will have that information, and they'll be able to plot it together into a photo so that we can start getting an idea of the tragic situation that's happened here in the last week. So if you fly a drone in this area, whether for whatever reason, inside our TFR, you could lose your pilot's license, you will be fined, and your aircraft will be confiscated. I've been working with our law enforcement authorities in the area, and they're aware of the situation, and we're actively looking for drone operators to get them out of our skies. I have colleagues that have been flying front seat in a helicopter, small helicopter, and a bird has flown through the windshield. So if a small bird can fly through, even your little Walmart drone could fly through, causing significant damage or worse. So I'll be around for questions at the end of this. I'd just like to ask that you please, if you guys are flying your drones, we can't fly, and you will probably be punished if we catch you. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. So that'll conclude the update from the incident management team on the fire. We're going to open up to the local leadership for brief statements for the community meeting, and we'll be at this time opening up with Mayor Lynn Crawford.
Thank you, everyone. So don't fly a drone. Don't do that. So we have talked earlier, significant flooding in the Eagle Creek area. So we do have a lot of people that have already entered into the community. Tomorrow morning, everybody knows what's happening. We're opening the community up so people can come back to look at their properties. So with that, you come in, we've asked you to bring plenty of drinking water, bring your own food, because there's just not that around. The grocery stores do not have workers in. They're restocking. Also, we have a preliminary watch on our water. We have the ED, the New Mexico Environmental Department, out right now checking all of our water wells. And when they were talking about the Eagle Creek area, that's where a significant amount of water comes from. So if we have contamination on our wells, then we're going to have a boil. And so what we'll do with that is restaurants, ice machines, people serving fountain drinks, things of that nature will be a no-go. So we're still a very dangerous, fluid situation for the public, and that's what we've tried to address, that you need to pay attention to these things. We actively have heavy equipment working all in the burned areas, and while we're talking about burned areas, they're called exclusion zones. And we have them in the village and we have them in the county. So I'll let Randall talk about his. So we have exclusion zones, those are burned. In those areas, you're not allowed, and the reasons are it's dangerous, and there may be folks that we're still looking for. Search and recovery have their dogs, and they're looking for them as we speak. So I'd like to clear up one misnomer that we had earlier. It was reported that there were 3 deaths. There's 2. So hallelujah for that. We haven't had any fines yet with the canines, so that's a good thing so far. But we still have a lot of properties to go through. So we're expecting, when we said that we were allowing folks back into your properties, It's your property, but with that comes responsibility. We need to stay out of the way of the professionals that are in here. There is heavy equipment everywhere. So when you're running up and down these roads and they're trying to clear debris, which is everywhere, clear the roads, and then we have a line of cars that are waving and honking, wanting through, that is just not working. So if you're here, your home is safe and secure, we're very happy for you. If your house is burned or you're unable, you're still in an evacuated area, a no-go zone, we have housing that has arrived. It's emergency housing through the state. We have enough for 500 people. And we will have the Red Cross, those guys are doing great, that are going to be able to feed you. We have FEMA personal services that's coming in where we'll be able to get cash, be able to get services directly to those people that are directly affected. We know there are many of you that left without anything, and so we're here to help you for that. We have donations coming in from all over the country, so much that our neighborhoods, Capitan, Roswell, Alamogordo, and even further out are so stocked with stuff that they can't take it anymore. Our neighbors, the Mescalero Apaches, have been gracious enough to open up their school, open up the convention center and all the other areas. They're full. We love all the donations, but if we could please put a halt on that for now. Also, cash donations are coming in, and we're very pleased about that because cash is king, and we are handing that money directly out to those affected. So we appreciate all the hard work of the people that you've seen before. As you can tell, dramatic progress has been made. Things are looking like they're in our favor, but we're still very aware, and you need to be too as the public, the flood danger is super real. I cannot stress that enough. It's on you before you know it. So we are now currently at the 48 intersection of Eagle Creek, the bridge that flows into, everybody knows it as the duck pond or the kids' fishing pond that goes into Alto Lake. We're having to release a little bit of water because we've had a significant flooding events that has caused the breach on the walking bridge. We're having debris removed right now to an improved site. So we're moving this material everywhere, folks, and so we need, and I'm speaking to the public, you need to watch what you're doing, be self-aware, okay? You know, we're glad that you're coming back to take a look, but if you don't have to be here, please go back for your safety and the safety of others. So I think that's about covered it, and I'll be around for questions later.
Thank you. For our next speaker will be Lincoln County Manager Randall Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just so everyone knows on the county's behalf, I'd like to thank all of you guys, the Mescalero Apache, the village of Ruidoso, the surrounding communities. Everybody's been pulling together so strongly. It's been impressive, and to be quite honest, it's the only way we can pull this off. Okay, we're badly hurt, and we have a lot of help, but it's still going to take time. A lot of people want to come home. I know that. A lot of people have lost their homes, and they want to see what's there. I know that too. But they need to be aware this is a very fluid, very dangerous situation. We're trying to repopulate the community as best we can because we need workers to open the grocery stores, to open the gas stations. We have limited resources, limited fuel, limited power, electricity in some places, and limited gasoline and natural gas just because of the damage to the lines. Also, the water systems have been compromised and they're in the process of being recovered. That's county and village all across the board. You know, Alto's working on theirs. We've got the USAR teams with the dogs out clearing a lot of the burned areas. The county has allowed residents to return home up along Airport Road, and we're looking at Sun Valley. We start getting down here. Alto Lakes we're holding off of because that has to be cleared by the USAR team. And the gas companies have to cap those lines and repressurize from the burned houses. When a house burns, your water lines burn, your gas lines burn, your electric lines burn. So re-energizing any of those can be risky. So if you get in there too soon, you could have electricity popping around or you could have a gas leak. And the water lines, when you burn a house, it burns through the water lines and then they backdraft to the lowest house, and it actually sucks bacteria into the lines. That's the reason why the water systems, everybody is talking so much about them. So you need to understand, the grocery stores lost their power, so their coolers, the food there has gone bad. They have to dispose of that. It'd be dry goods, and they need the workers, and they need to restock, just like the gas stations need their workers, and they need their gas tankers to arrive. They haven't been able to get here because of the situation. So fuel is limited. Fuel up when you come in. Know that we're working on a repopulation plan for the unaffected properties adjacent to the burned areas. Alto Lakes, Alto proper, even out Outlaw, and then up here around Sierra Vista. Gavilan Canyon, there are a few homes that survived. We're working on that. It will be a more difficult process because we need to know who is in there and that they actually belong in there. The other thing, to repeat what the mayor said, if you do come in, please don't go out driving, looking around. We don't need looky-loos because we have so many emergency vehicles moving, so many power pole setters out there moving. You clog up the works. You will have plenty of time to look at this over the rest of your lifetime, to be quite honest. That's how long it's going to take to recover. And we're going to be moving debris. Please, if it even looks like it's going to rain, don't go Gavilan Canyon, don't go Holland Paradise, don't go Bonita Lake Road. We don't want to do any rescues, and we don't want to have any accidents or people stranded or hurt or any fatalities because they were in the wrong place. These flash floods happen extremely quickly. I know I was out driving and surveying during the rains today to see the effects, and I was amazed. The flow off of Cedar Creek was impressive for Cedar Creek, which barely has any flow at all before the fire. Now I actually saw a trailer coming down Cedar Creek. So there's a lot of debris out there. It changes the dynamics. Highway 48 bridge is at risk. Alto Lake is at risk, and the mayor, your team is jumping on that one. It's a different world out there. Just please be aware and just stay out of the way, please, and don't expect full services yet. Everybody's working, and they're backed up, and they're trying, and we've got all sorts of resources coming in. It's going to take time. Thank you.
Okay, for our next speaker, we'll have Zia Natural Gas representative Leslie Graham speak.
Thank you so much. Leslie Graham, Zia Natural Gas. I could have said it better. Randall, thank you so much for your statements. Yeah, this has been a real challenge for the gas company, both the fire and then the flooding. In fact, it was a challenge to get to this meeting on time. Driving from Zia Gas to the high school included a tour of town, it turns out. Our crews have been working very hard. As we have a fire come through, we sectionalize our system using valves. In fact, we had to dig up and squeeze off some of our mains, and so we do have areas curtailed. Now that we're in recovery mode, we're going through each of those areas and assessing that gas system. As he said, we are cutting and capping the gas lines to the damaged structures, and our crews are working long hours to try and get that secure. To repressurize the mains, though, we have to go to each meter and turn it off. And then we have to make sure we safely and securely pressurize those lines and get gas going back into the main system. Then we can come back around to each meter and relight those meters. Give us a little time, be patient. It is very important that you not go cut the lock off that valve and turn the gas on. To us, as we're repressurizing the line, it will look like a leak. It will delay our ability to get gas service going as we're searching for where the gas is going. So please allow our crews to work. We're going to work hard, and we're going to try and work fast to get gas service restored to each area. I do not have a true outage map with really pretty bubbles and images, but online, and I appreciate Carrie and the village for getting that posted, we do have a general verbal description of where we have gas out at. And so please take a look at that. If your house lies within those areas, it's a good possibility you do not have gas, but we are actively working those areas and we'll get it restored. Generally, west of Meacham, between Maine and Swiss Chalet, up around Alto Cafe, and then in the southern part of Alto. And so I appreciate our crews coming up from Las Cruces and from Hobbs to work to get this done. In addition, we've got crews working to clear ditches as, not we, Zia, the county and the village to clear ditches, gas lines in the ditches. And so please watch those flood areas. Those floods can damage the gas lines as well. Please feel free to call us if you smell gas anywhere. We are also affected by the communication like everybody else in the village. Call our number. You may be talking to someone in one of our other areas. Be patient with them. Describe where you are, what question you have, what area you're trying to find out about, and they will work with you and get the information to our crews. Be patient. We'll get there. We'll be knocking on your door. We'll leave you a tag. We'll come back, and we'll get your gas returned to service as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.
For our next brief update, we're going to have TDS Telecommunications, Jonathan Rodriguez.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Johnny Rodriguez, Manager of Field Service for TDS Telecommunications. On behalf of TDS customers and associates, we'd like to thank in-state local leaders, as well as the courageous first responders and firefighters. Their leadership and hard work reflect how great this community is. We also send our deepest condolences to those impacted by wildfires. Here are a few updates on TDS services. TDS lost its critical equipment hub, known as a head-end facility that serves Alto, Capitan, Ruidoso, and Ruidoso Downs, as well as electric service feeding this facility. Based on our initial surveys, we also know our cable infrastructure has been damaged in many areas, which means repair or replacement will be necessary. The first step in restoration was to repair TDS main fiber optic transport cable that provides connectivity to the area cellular providers. Thanks to the unprecedented effort by TDS teams, connectivity was restored to 10 cell towers Friday night. We continue to work with our cellular partners to identify and complete repairs to additional towers. We are currently working to restore cellular connectivity to Capitan. This is due to the relatively undamaged condition of our network in that area, which we believe will make it possible to stand up services relatively quickly there. We are also working on temporary network facility to restore services. TDS is prioritizing reconnecting services to first responders and other critical infrastructures. However, due to the limits on travel and access, we haven't been able to safely perform a thorough assessment. For that reason, we do not have a timeline for full restoration yet. The fire has impacted so many of us, including our own associates, but we remain committed to serving customers in Alto, Capitan, Ruidoso, and Ruidoso Downs, and look forward to reconnecting everyone to their services as soon as possible. We have a long road ahead with long-term restoration work and appreciate everyone's patience. Customers can get daily updates on progress on hellotds.com blog. We will also be sending communication to our customers who have provided their email address to us. We want to assure everyone will be credited impacted TDS customers during this time. We are grateful for the work that our nonprofit organizations have been doing in the area, provide aid and assistance to our associates, neighbors, and friends. To support those ongoing efforts, TDS is making $10,000 donation to the American Red Cross designated specifically for this recovery. Again, thank you for your collaboration and assistance we have received, which has allowed us to make such great strides in short time. We will continue to push forward so we can reconnect all customers as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, and for our last brief update from our utilities and local leaders. We're going to bring up Godfrey and Jate from the emergency broadband operations.
Hi, my name is Godfrey Njadi. I headed up the EBOT team, Emergency Broadband Operations Team, out of Mescalero. We had a little bit of problems with communications. Everybody was evacuated, no teams, no nothing. So I put it upon myself to bring all the teams together. We brought Windstream, we brought TDS and PVT together with Ruidoso Basin Telecom. With all these telecoms, we were able to reroute services from the affected areas and bring cellular service, internet services back in Ruidoso. So it's not everywhere, and again, everybody, we've had a major catastrophic situation here, so it's not going to be everywhere, but we got a good portion of businesses and homes that were not affected up with services. So we're wanting to do that. I want to introduce part of the teams from Windstream and from P&M. I know you guys are probably going to do another update, but I just want to make sure it was a team effort. All of us came together voluntarily. Nobody put us together, and we did all this stuff. So, Johnny, you want to talk just for a second?
Thank you, Godfrey. Johnny Montoya, I'm the Vice President of Windstream Communications for New Mexico. Just a brief update. First of all, this was personal for us as well. We have employees here. We've been a member of the community here for a long time. The mayor, you've been phenomenal, you and your staff. Thank you so much. You know, well, let me start with some good news. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, Capitan's voice services have now been restored. That's a big deal. 911 was down. We had some big issues there. So thanks to the team, Capitan is back up. With regards to our efforts, we've also worked with the group that Godfrey was talking about. We've restored, our first step was to work with the village and his staff to get critical infrastructure restored, right? Village Hall, the information center, the hospitals, the police and fire, 911. That was our first step. We have since started to build or patch together, if you will, a backbone so we can start trying to assess what last mile customers will now need to be restored, and we are starting that assessment now. We did have some damage, as most of our providers. A shout out to all of our provider friends. They were very helpful, but things are looking good. There is a lot of work to be done. As Godfrey said, this has been sort of patchwork for now to make sure that critical infrastructure is back up. There will be a time we got to come back and bury fiber that's laying on the ground and do some deeper work. But the team has been great, and things are moving in the right direction, and fingers crossed it continues down that momentum.
Yeah, hi, I'm Wes Gray with P&M. Just like our friends at Windstream, we've been a member of this community for a very long time. We've got a lot of folks here. We had a couple of folks impacted by the fire. And, you know, with wood poles, which is a big chunk of our system here, we had a lot of damage. We have some areas that we can do some heavy repairs, but we also have parts of our system that were completely destroyed. So we're going to have to replace upwards of 1,500 wood poles throughout the Ruidoso area. To accomplish that, we are bringing in 10 vegetation management crews. They're on the ground. They've been removing trees and kind of clearing the way for our line crews. We have 18 line crews coming in tomorrow to start heavy construction and start rebuilding these portions of the system. On Wednesday, 15 more crews are coming in. So we're going to have upwards of 200 linemen out here working to rebuild the system. We ask for your patience because there's some portions of the village and the areas just outside of it that we're working really hard to get wood in the ground so that we can get service restored. Crews are going to be focused primarily in Upper Canyon, Cedar Creek, the North Gavilan Canyon Road area, and the Ski Run Road, and then we're going to be bringing crews in after some of those projects with the second tranche of personnel into Brady Canyon and Alpine Meadows to try to get service restored. We have our outage numbers updated. We have about 2,900 customers out right now. We're working to try to clean that data up and find out, and as we energize, those numbers will be updated, and you can find that on our outage map at pnm.com. And for the customers coming back in whose power is off and they have some problems with their electric service and they're able to safely receive electric service, you can get information at pnm.com, and our team will work with you to try to get your service restored as quickly as possible.
And then one of the other things on the business side of it, we've heard from a couple of community members about paying their bills. People are worried about their bills. So PNM at this time has suspended there are late fees for all bills in this area. So you won't be assessed a late fee because we understand the impact. You're going to need your money to help you get resettled in the community. Also, if anybody has set up automatic payments, those automatic payments have been turned off. So they're not going to deduct money from your account, again, to try to help you keep some cash in your pockets to help you resettle and settle back into the community. So with that, that's the end of our report.
Again, this was a team effort between all the providers in the area, so I don't think it ever happened where we got everything back up within a week in a catastrophic situation like this. So thank you guys for your due service.
Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and open up into the Q&A session. So panel members, as you're here, if you can stand from your chair, answer the question, and then at the end of this meeting, I would just ask that, looking at our comments and seeing what other questions that may be coming up after the meeting.
Okay, I'm going to focus on the questions that the team can't answer that are for our cooperators. Why is Carrizo Canyon closed and when will it open?
So I'm Deputy Chief Miller with Ruidoso PD. The reason we had Carrizo Canyon closed is right now we've kept everybody out of the Ruidoso area due to the evacuations that were here. That was one route coming in from the reservation line. I know Muscalero was also closed on Highway 70 due to fires that they had there. As these roadblocks come open tomorrow morning into the village of Ruidoso, that is one area that will be lifted, so they will be able to come back into town on that route.
If you can hang on to the mic and pass it around to your panel members. Okay,
the next question is, when is it suggested that second homeowners can come into the area?
I'll take that one as well. So when things open tomorrow morning, obviously we're letting everybody that are in non-affected areas come back in to their residences. With that being said, we're asking that primary residents come in first, and if secondary homeowners can delay that as much as possible, because we do have people that we're trying to get back to their homes who are displaced. The more people we have coming in at one time, the more congested the roadways are going to be and the more hectic it's going to be. So we're just asking that secondary homeowners, if they can give us a little bit of time to get our primary homeowners back in first, let them get a little bit settled, and then they can start coming in. There's nothing to stop them from coming up here. We're just asking for their cooperation in helping the local residents re-inhabit their homes first.
All right. Can insurance companies come in tomorrow?
Insurance companies we're trying to get utilities, and so in the affected areas, anything that's an affected area, we're not letting anybody in, with the exception of our federal, the USAR teams, the urban search and rescue are coming in, because we do have areas that we are still going through. We have active fire operations going in some of those areas. There's also some utilities that they're working on those areas. So the affected areas, no, but into the open areas, yes, which will not help the insurance adjusters. No, that will not help them, but they will be able to be in the area, yes. And as those, so to answer the questions as far as when they'll get back in there, the sooner that the USAR teams come through and the sooner we can start clearing some of the burned structures, we're going to start pulling back our roadblocks and opening those areas up. So as they move through, then we're going to start allowing other people back into those areas at that time.
Okay. Why was the evacuation order lifted so soon when there are still so many variables unresolved?
That's a mayor question. Well, and it was lifted really because at one point we've all lived through COVID, and we've talked about, property rights, liberty, thing of that nature, but we sat down and we looked at what we could be able to do with recovering of our water, talking to the hospital about when they were going to be able to get open, working with our partners in the county. I know people were wanting to come in and take a look. We had a lot of people that are displaced that just don't have the funds to do what they need to do. So they're sleeping on cots, they're sleeping on the floors in different places, doing the best that they can. So there was an outcry that people wanted to come back in. And at one point we tried to decide, are we being big brother, or are we being good stewards? And so it came to a point that we felt like that we needed to let people in. In saying that, we ask for your cooperation and your trust, because all these people that you've seen sitting around the room, you heard what P&M's got coming in tomorrow and then the next day. So it's going to be crowded. And so that's why the evacuation was lifted, because people were wanting to get back in. We had Ruidoso Downs that relatively, a lot of that was uninfected. Affected. A lot of the folks in the county areas were unaffected. There's still quite a few homes in Ruidoso that are not affected. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be people that come in. You're going to go to your property and there's nothing there for you. So yet we ask you to stay out of it, because these professionals, when they go back into those areas, they're required to wear N95 masks, respirators, wear gloves, Tyvek, things of that nature. So it's toxic, it's dangerous. So just look and then go back. Go back home.
All right, thank you. Rainbow Park Outlook.
What was that?
Rainbow Park Outlook. No, okay, then we'll go on to the next one. Could you discuss any updates on the investigation and if there's any suspect apprehended?
Well, I can take that. I was just in the meeting earlier. There is an FBI investigation. There's nothing to comment on. When the investigation is done, it'll be done.
All right. Is entry permitted to the Downs? And I think...
The answer is yes, unless the mayor wants to speak to that tomorrow morning.
I didn't hear the question.
Is entry into the Ruidoso Downs, is it permitted?
Yes, it is, but first thing I did when this thing started, I had all the employees, Juneteenth was Wednesday, I had them, we notified them to take Thursday and Friday off in case they wanted to get out of there, and then, of course, later avoid the smoke and this kind of thing. I was interviewed this morning by one of the radio stations. Lynn Crawford and I were on the same page. I listened to his interview later in the day, and so that salt fire, I can tell you this, if you look at it on the map, the prevailing wind is always to the northeast, and Ruidoso Downs would not be there at all if we hadn't been. It was by the grace of God. Everything south of Highway 70 would have gone, because that is extremely heavily forested. We don't, I had originally told everyone not to come back until Monday, that's tomorrow. Unfortunately, we had some newly elected individuals that they like to draw attention, and maybe these kind of things need to be addressed before we have this situation next time, because there was conflicting information from the county and some places, and it has made it very difficult. With the information that came from the county sheriff's office, the statement that I just made before coming here that went out is that while I'm going to acknowledge the county sheriff, his mandate that people could come back, I'm going to acknowledge that and respect it, but I'm asking the people from the Downs not to come back until tomorrow. There's a little imaginary line. These two cities are so joined at the hip, so to speak. Anything that affects Ruidoso, the Downs can affect that. So people coming back into the Downs is going to affect our neighbors next door. But thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So there are several questions asking, can I get home? I live on Oak. I live on Hemlock Circle. I live on Hidalgo Street. What is the best way? Is there a website or a phone number these folks can call to find out?
Yes, they can go to ruidoso-nm.gov, and then there's a spot that you can click on, and it'll show you the affected areas. And if you're in the burned area, more than likely you're not going to be able to get in. But there's still a lot of areas. Did I cover that all right, Carrie?
And the Facebook page.
And the Facebook page, of course, the Village of Ruidoso Facebook page.
Thank you, Mayor. This is going to conclude our Q&A session. Again, as I mentioned, I just would suggest that all the partners here in the room, look at our comments for any of those unanswered questions. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for closing statements from our Incident Commander, Dave Gesser.
Yeah, so, I know there's a lot of questions out there, but we thought it was important to have the speakers up that we had to get some information out there to the public. Trying to look at our last meeting we had to get that information out, so we brought those folks in. So we'll get to the questions, we'll make sure we get to that stuff, but, more importantly, the fire's there, and we've been addressing that. But the overwhelming support, the mayor said it, Lincoln County manager, and several others, it's been overwhelming, and that's gratitude. One of the biggest things that I want to talk about is the collaboration. This community has been pulled together and has worked with us as well, but to see that collaboration in this community speaks highly, and I appreciate that. And how we've all worked together to come to one common goal, and that's to get people back in. But please be patient with folks. You're going to be back in. There's going to be a lot of first responders, a lot of these utility companies out there trying to get some work done. So please watch your speeds, watch out for the people that are out there working, because people are everywhere. There's big trucks out there, there's all kinds of infrastructure and things that need to be taken care of. So just be patient with folks, allow that time, and thank you.
Thank you again for joining, everyone. That will conclude our evening or community meeting this evening. Appreciate your time, and continue to enter in your questions into our chat, and we will monitor those after this meeting. Thank you.